Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, guys. Okay, so I'm going to do a short live stream answering your questions because I haven't answered them for a while. Some of you guys have been asking me if I can just quickly answer them. So I'm going to, inshallah, answer your questions. Before that, this is just something I thought I'd mention to you guys, which is how to understand the universe in the Quran. So the way, Walaikum assalam rahmatullah, the way I kind of think of it is like this. Imagine it, like one of those games, like what are those games called? Is it called Warcraft or something? I don't know, where you build your own kind of universe. What's that game called? Minecraft, that's the one. Minecraft, Warcraft. Okay, so think of it like this. Imagine you had to create a universe. What would you need? Right? Think of it like that. And just brainstorm it and then keep thinking about the problems you're going to encounter. And I guarantee if you think about this, this is not something which is going to be achievable in a day, right? This is going to take you ages, weeks, years even. It's one of those games where you have to build something and then it kind of, you have these animals and then the animals give birth. Yeah, do they give birth?
Different game.
Yeah, so they give birth and everything, yeah. So when you start thinking about this, you think about how intricate the universe is and how complicated things can get in the universe. So this is why, try that yourself. Get a pen and piece of paper and think to yourself from scratch, how would you create the universe? Now, obviously, you're going to base it upon Allah's system. But if you kind of think about it in this way, what will happen is every time you read the Quran and Allah mentions about the sun, Allah mentions about plants, Allah mentions about the system of rain, He mentions about reproduction, all these things. What happens is you begin to appreciate every single thing that Allah mentions. You realize how intricate Allah has created the system from the cellular level, the atomic level, to all the planets and galaxies and human beings and animals. Every single thing is just perfectly created. Right? Now, when we say humans are imperfect, what we're saying basically is that they commit sins, they make mistakes. It doesn't mean that they're imperfect in how they've been created, and there could have been a more perfect way to create them. Right? So when you kind of do this exercises the mind, and it makes you more interactive with Allah's creation as well, Allah's universe, and more specifically, appreciating the way that Allah describes the universe in the Quran. Anyway, and I'm thinking of doing maybe a little kind of video on this or series on this. What do you guys think? Put in the comments. Whatever you guys tell me in the comments, inshallah, I'm going to think about that. I'm going to make a note of it. Right, so answering your questions now. So I'm going to go to my curious cat. Quite a few questions here. I can't remember what the last one was. So let me just try to work my way up. Okay. All right, so if someone, actually there's quite a few, about the relationship between scientific. All right, okay, what falsafa, kalam and mantiq books did you study at your madrasa? So what I studied at madrasa, I studied a book called Tasil Mantiq, which was written by my teacher, Sheikh Anwar Badashani. Then I studied a book called Mirqat. Then I studied a book called Qutbi. Then I studied a book called Sulam al-Ulum. And then I studied a book called the Commentary on Sulam al-Ulum, Qadi, Qadi Mubarak, Mullah Hassan. Yeah, studied those. And then there were some other kind of books which had mantiq discussions in there, like Mullah Jami, yeah, Sharh Jami. So Mullah Jami's book, So there was that, and there was also like sections of Musallam al-Thubut that contained lots of mantiq topics, discussions in there. So yeah, so I did quite a few of that. Falsafa, I studied Ilm al-Hikmah, and then I also studied a bit of Mebzi, and then besides that, just some other discussions that we studied. Okay, Riba al-Fadl is added a consideration, e.g. exchanging one pen for two. No, not in Riba al-Fadl, because in Riba al-Fadl it's only if the jins of the item and it's something that's weighed and measured. Yeah, so it wouldn't be considered there. Is it permitted to work for a car insurance company like HSBC? It depends what the terms and conditions are. So if you can mention the terms and conditions, what exactly the job entails. If it's something directly to do with the insurance itself, then most likely no. And if it's something which is a generic job, then possibly. So it depends on the terms and conditions. Is it permitted to gamble in video games with virtual currency coins? Is it permitted to sell virtual coins for actual money? Would gambling in games be permitted if it has real implications? Is it being able to sell coins to people in real life? It's a difficult question, this is. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look this one up. I mean, generally, gambling is not permitted where there is some real mal. So where there is real mal, where there is real wealth involved, it wouldn't be allowed. So as long as the game does not have real wealth, it's just something which is assumed and it has no bearing in society, then it should be fine. Otherwise, no. If it does have any sort of like monetary value in society, then it wouldn't be. Is it permitted for a cashier to undergo the lottery ticket process on a machine for a customer? Yeah, that would be permitted. Yeah, because it's just kind of like doing a generic job. So it wouldn't necessarily be kind of like supporting the action itself directly. So it's just like a generic job where you just put a card in and you take the money, right? And it's not really kind of, it's like basically alcohol. The same with the concept of alcohol. So you're working in a shop. You're not selling alcohol. If you're making money from these tickets, it's not allowed. That wouldn't be allowed. That's a separate issue. But just working as a cashier, then there'd be scope for that. So now, what do you think about the relationship between scientific realization, tree planting, and mind-blowing potential to tackle climate crisis? And the hadith, if the hour is about to be established and one of you is holding a palm, shoot, let him take advantage, or even 1 second before the hour is established, plant it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a very good, I mean, mashallah, so a good point that is. Day of Judgment and the planting, yeah, definitely. I mean, these kind of things, see, when we look at hadith and when we look at the Quran, unfortunately, a lot of people seem to assume that the Quran and the hadith are going to be kind of tackling everything, right? They're like explanations for every single thing in such a way that you kind of think that the solution for cancer is in the Quran, the solution for the tear in the ozone layer is the solution for overpopulation is in the Quran. So it's not, the solution is not there like in your face. It's not like black and white. It's like a general. So sometimes we have a problem, but the problem doesn't have one solution. It's like multifaceted solutions, problems rather, and then you have to tackle each problem. This is something which is known as thinking systems or systems thinking. So you can Google it as well. System thinking. It's a way of trying to tackle problems, which is we generally think there is one solution for a problem, but it might actually be multifaceted problems, and we have to tackle those problems, and then we're able to. So yeah, tree planting is a good one. The hadith. Yeah, but we have to approach the Quran and Sunnah in the way that it is. Yeah. So what it's for, it's for guidance of mankind. That's the main purpose of it. It's like when you look in a mirror, you mainly see your face, right? But you might see things on the peripheral vision, but you didn't intend to see them. They weren't there to be seen. What you intended to look at was your own face, right? And sometimes when you look in the Quran, that's how it is. The main thing is guidance, and the peripheral sort of like things that you see in your vision of the Quran, in the ayats and the hadith, right? Those are kind of separate, secondary matters. And also the Prophet ﷺ says, "Antum a'lam bi umuri dunyakum." You people know how to deal with worldly issues best. So we know the solutions for global warming, or let's say what was it? Deforestation. We know the problems, right? You know, it's like multinational companies. It's our greed for meat and getting cheaper things. So these are the kind of problems, and the solutions obviously known to us. Salam, you mentioned that due to the verse, however, whoever transgresses against you transgresses against them as they transgressed against you. If someone harms a person or swears at them, then they can harm or swear equally. If swearing, is swearing itself a sin outside of the context when it is not directed to someone? Not necessarily. No, swearing is not considered to be a sin. It's considered to be morally wrong. Like it's considered to be like it doesn't befit a Muslim. So there's something a difference between something being a sin and something being wrong morally. If it's a swear where you're accusing someone of something like fornication, etc., then that is a sin, guys, and that will be a sin. Yeah, but otherwise, it won't necessarily be a sin. It will be morally wrong, and some sins, some swears can actually, if it's slander, accusing someone of something, then that can have legal implications as well if there were courts in place. What are the principles related to accepting gifts on or around Christmas? Yeah, you can accept them. The scholars do mention things like, if it is something that you don't do normally and you do it in them days, then al-ma'ruf kal-mashrut, something that is known is considered to be like something which is stipulated. So in other words, why are you doing it Christmas for? Why are you accepting gifts? Why are you giving gifts for? You're only doing it because it's Christmas. So that's why they say it's kind of like, nipping it at the bud, right? You're kind of like cutting it off at the root. Sadd al-zaraya, basically. So that's why they would say you shouldn't be doing this. But it's difficult. I mean, in this kind of society, it's difficult not to accept because sometimes some people's situations are such that the community they live in or the background they're from, it's a culture of accepting and giving gifts. Okay, if someone gives someone an item and they take it back, even though there is a transfer of ownership based on the hadith of the being treated like a dog, taking it back, it's vomit, which shows the gift can be taken back. If it can be taken back, is it sinful? Not necessarily, no. So the Hanafis mentioned that there's about 7 scenarios where you're not allowed to take a gift back, or you shouldn't take a gift back. Like you shouldn't ask for it back. If they give it back to you, that's fine, but you shouldn't kind of ask for it back, right? The 7 scenarios. Dam'un khaziqa. It's like an acronym. Dam'un khaziqa. 7 scenarios for this. Dam'un dal. Okay, I'm not going to go into that. It's going to be too long. But yes, you can take it back in many scenarios. Yeah, it won't be considered sinful. It all depends, like I said. They say, for example, like, if I give you a gift, and then let's say I gave you a house, and you built on this house, you built an extension, now I want it back. Now, because you've added something to it, I can't take it back off you. Yeah, now legal implications would come in now. So they can take me to court, basically. So a lot of the masail that we kind of think about is we have to remember a lot of court issues are involved, and when we read fiqh, we read it decontextualized, and we don't see the court implications rather. So these are kind of court issues. So sometimes legally it's wrong, morally it's wrong. Sometimes something can be legally correct, allowed, but morally it could be wrong, and something could be legally and morally both right. So yeah, you can basically, there's many scenarios where you can take a gift back. Earlier you mentioned that women should observe hijab in front of lesbians. However, there are many male and female Muslims who have left various degrees of attraction to the opposite sex at some point in their lives, even though it doesn't become a part of their identity. Sexual orientation and identity seem to be a modern concept. Would this rule apply if a Muslim confessed to you of having had sexual experience or attraction to the same gender at some point in their lives, if they are generally a good practicing Muslim you trust and is married? I mean, in these kind of situations, look, it all goes down to lust. So in other words, if you feel that, look, you, by showing parts of your body to another person, that person is going to most likely become sexually attracted, then this is something which a person should avoid, right? And they should kind of observe hijab. Otherwise, there's scope for it. So if it's between a male and a male, and you don't really normally have this attraction, then it's fine. Having less clothing wouldn't be an issue, as long as the main part is covered. I think that's answered it. Does that answer it? Yeah. So yeah, there should be scope. Again, this is something which would have to be looked at from case to case. because it's a very kind of like difficult. There will be men who will be attracted to men, and there will be women who are attracted to women, and there will be adults who are attracted to children, and children attracted to adults, not minor children, young adults. This is going to happen, but as Muslims, we have to control our desires. We should try our best to control our desires. Try to stop it from going forward. So if you see someone across the road you're attracted to, you've got to control yourself. Just because you're attracted to them, it doesn't mean you can have a relationship with them. And if you kind of are attracted, for example, someone might be attracted to someone by looking at certain parts of their body, like their hands or their feet, or maybe their hair, or maybe, I don't know, some other part, their eyes. So if you feel that, then you are obliged to lower your gaze. That's how it works. Okay. Okay, so there's lots of questions left on my Curious Cat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop that there, and then I'll continue it, inshallah, next time, and I'll answer the ones on the side you have over here. Because I don't really have like 2 hours today. Alright, let's just have a check of this. Okay, so we'll continue from the Curious Cat from where we left off next time. Okay, so alaikum assalam rahmatullah. Yeah, we have a limited capacity of imagine and design, whereas Allah has limited capacity to design the universe. Exactly. Yo. Yeah, mashallah. Okay, Sister Amina. I understand that in Islam, a man has the right to divorce his wife, but would he be considered sinful if he divorced her without any reason? If he says, if you go to visit your parents, you'll be divorced. Possibly, yeah. I mean, the thing is, we have to remember, legally, he won't be held accountable for it. And because in a hadith it comes, the worst kind of halal things in the eyes of Allah is one of the worst halal things in the eyes of Allah is talaq. So you're going to be obviously breaking her heart. You're going to be causing her stress. You're going to be doing all these things. So that clearly, like, it goes against other, narrations regarding uprightness and character and being a good person. Yeah, a Muslim should never harm another Muslim with their tongue or with their hands. So if there's no reason for it and a man gives a woman talaq and this really affects her and hurts her, then yeah, potentially on the Day of Judgment it is something that can. If you think about it, if a person will go Jahannam for words they say and they don't take any consideration of its consequences, imagine that. Isn't talaq a word as well? And if it affects someone, hurts someone, and there was no reasoning behind it, then how can that be something that would allow a person to just utter words of divorce without there being any consequences in the hereafter? It doesn't make sense. So our religion is just, our religion is upright. Yeah, legally in the courts will not do anything, possibly. Yeah, but in the eyes of Allah, a person would have to answer for these things. Allah knows best. There are lots of hadith condemning women who ask for khula without any reason. Then how do we understand hadith where a woman asks for khula just because she didn't like how her husband looked? So when it comes to these issues, what we have to understand is there's all context behind it. Sometimes what happens is there is particular scenarios in our society, like culture, you can say maybe, where something is understood, you understand the context of things because there's a culture you live in. Like for example, I lived in Pakistan for 9 years. There's lots of things that made sense when I was living there that doesn't make sense over here, right? The way people maybe, like in Pakistan, for instance, on a bus, you go on a bus, you don't kind of get up for someone that's older than you and let them sit. It wasn't considered to be a norm in that society, even though I would do it, but it wasn't considered. People would find it strange that you would get up for someone who's older than you and let him sit or let her sit. So there's many kind of strange norms that you have. So when we read hadith, the thing we have to understand about hadith is there's always things behind it. There's always like a history behind it, the background behind it. And when you just take the words of the hadith, that actually causes more problems. Because like I put on one of my posts, studying hadith and coming to conclusions yourself is very problematic. That's why following a madhab, following fiqh is the safest bet, because it's kind of like fleshed out all the issues from our sources and discussed them in great depth and presented them. Yeah, so this would have to be looked at. So yeah, I mean, in certain narrations, you had a woman came to the Prophet ﷺ and she said to the Messenger of Allah, I want a khula. He said, why? And she said, basically, I don't want to be ungrateful. If I live with him, I'm going to continue to be ungrateful to him. I don't want that. It's fine, okay. And he issued it. Yeah. So these are the kind. And I personally think that in the West, the Islamic sort of like fiqh councils, they aren't like, I don't think they are very well trained. Many of them, I don't think they're very well trained in problems of the society, and they bring it down to like definitions of a masala. And when you bring something down to a definitions of a masala, you kind of become very lakir ka fakir, like they say, right? You kind of look at the definition and the exact wording, and then you say, I'm sorry, you can't have this because the definition is not there in the books of fiqh. I think that's where people, they see a fail in our system. And there's no fail in the Sharia. It's in the failing of individuals who are trying to implement this. And in the past, you had qadis, judges, and the judges had a very like broad sort of like powers, and they were able to kind of even sometimes go outside of the madhab itself and be able to issue laws. So when we see these kind of maslas of khula, we are looking at them through a particular specific scenario in the West, in a particular sort of like community which has been run by, or the fiqh council has been run by particular individuals who have limited powers in the community. So I think, yeah, there's scope definitely for khula, but this is something I definitely think work needs to be, just like we have National Zakat Foundation working at a national level with the zakat and looking at how zakat can be applied and in our modern society. There needs to be, I think, scholars that establish some sort of a strong, robust system like this. And they can't have it fully functioning in this country because you need, the powers from the government to be able to, give the scholars such powers to issue many of these rulings. I don't know if I'm making sense to any of you guys, but that's what comes to my mind. I mean, you can disagree with me. I'm sure some of you guys do disagree with me, but that's what I understand. Okay, is it a condition for khula that wife gives a monetary gift to a husband or returns his mahar to sort of buy it from? Yes, that's Quran mentions. Yeah, so Quran mentions that the money has to be given. If he wants the money back, he has to give it back. If he doesn't want it, that's fine. Just wanted to confirm that I remember you saying that a woman doesn't have to cover her eyebrows from non-mahram men if she shapes them. Is that correct? Yes, she doesn't have to. Basically, she doesn't have to cover things which are apparent. Yeah, so things that are apparent, the apparent features like the hands and the face and the feet. According to Hanafis, you don't have to cover them up. So if these are the apparent features, now obviously this would differ from woman to woman. If there's a woman who's very pretty, or she adorns herself and she makes herself, enhances her features, then she should be aware that are her features more enhanced than other women, hence are they going to be causing other people to become more attracted towards her? Is that what she does? So is that what she has in mind? If that's the case, she should be more careful. Yeah, so sometimes you have to look at it from person to person as well. So sometimes a woman might have to be a bit more cautious. Yeah, maybe her voice, so these kind of things, she has to be a bit more cautious. That's what I would say. But generally, the guidelines are face and feet and hands, can be exposed. Wa alaikum assalam. Sharif, what is the greatest strength quality Allah has given to mankind? Good question. I think it's ability to think, ability to be able to, process things in your mind, right? So simulation. Humans, I think the word I would use is humans are simulating creatures. Like they used to say in the past, humans are speaking creatures. But I think simulating creatures is the best word to describe. They can simulate things in their mind, amazingly. I don't think animals can do that. Okay, if a woman has what do you think, Sharif? What do you think the best ability is? If a woman has a miscarriage early on in the pregnancy, is the bleeding afterwards considered as nifas or istihada? Uh, the basically, if the woman has bleeding, and the bleeding occurs in the early period, or for example, like she has a miscarriage, rather, she has a miscarriage, the bleeding will be considered to be either hayd or istihada. So if enough time has passed that it could be a valid hayd, we treat it as hayd. And if enough time has not passed, then we treat it as istihada. Okay, Sister Amina's on a roll with the questions, mashallah. Okay. Needing Maghrib time though, so don't think they'll get answered. Say it's good that you ask, mashallah. We all learn new things, alhamdulillah. How exactly is the inheritance of a man divided if his parents, siblings, wife, and children are present? So, basically, if I die, my parents, mom and dad, they'll get a share each. I don't have any children, right? So the children will get nothing, and the spouse, she'll get something, right? So it depends on the scenarios. So if, for example, a guy dies, he has children and he has siblings and his parents. Because his parents are there, because he has male children, the siblings are deprived of a share. So every time there's male children, or every time there's a father, siblings, they don't get a share. Okay, ask a lot. Okay, Sister Yamna, I've come across many superlative expressions among Muslims, like the greatest sheikh, the sheikh of Islam. I thought you were talking about me. Okay, that seem contradictory when applied to many people. Is this rhetorical? Is this a rhetorical thing? Yeah. So when people say things like the greatest sheikh, sometimes some people call me that as well. Yeah. Or the sheikh of Islam. And sometimes some people call me that as well. Yeah. Sometimes I call myself that as well, depending on my mood and what I've eaten. Yeah, these are all exaggerated. Yeah, because it's all relative, really. Like to one man or to one woman, another person might be the biggest sheikh in the world, simply because they know more surahs than them. Yeah, so right, I would say it's very it's just exaggeration, really. And I think that's a problem that we have in our community. We exaggerate too much. They actually say these exaggerated terms actually came about when the East accepted Islam, when Pakistan and India, Bangladesh, when they accepted Islam, that's when all these terms came in. Yeah, because before that they never used to have these terms. They was like Abu so and so, Abu Hanifa, and Abu Abdullah. It was just Abus and Ums. And all of a sudden you had Hazrat and Maulana and Aqdas and this and that and Flan and blah blah blah. Yeah, so basically, mashallah, Pakistan done it again. Yeah, and sometimes we've seen those kind of talks they have. The guy's name will be so long, it's got like 10 words in the title before his name, and he's got a little short name. Okay, let's check another one. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. I have a question. Why did Allah give life to Jannah and Jahannam? Why did Allah give life to Jannah and Jahannam? I don't understand. Can you explain that? Why did He create Jannah and Jahannam? Okay. Tanaka. I hope I've said your name right, Tanaka. Yeah. You sound like some sort of like Japanese, those kind of Japanese karate, like samurai kind of, what are they called? Shoguns. They're called shoguns. The masters. Okay. Can you change your intention mid-prayer? E.g., if you start a fard prayer, can you intend between prayer and make it sunnah nafal? If you start it, you have to continue it. You can change your prayer, but then that will cancel out whatever you prayed before. It cancels it out. So according to Hanafis, yeah, that's basically it. You can't change. You got to start again, basically. Do Maturidis believe that Allah gave power to the angel who is in charge of the clouds to move the clouds and ordain what they do, or do they believe that Allah controls their attributes? I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't come across that before. Have you ever come across that? No, I've never come across that. But I mean, the Maturidi position on these kind of things basically is Allah creates things. Inside of things, there's an innate power that Allah has created inside of things, but that innate power cannot work without Allah's permission. So for example, Allah's created the light. The light is the ability to illuminate. But if you press the button, it doesn't mean the light's going to come on. Allah, He gives the power to the light to be able to come on. So it's like, Allah has given power, and at the same time, Allah, He allows things to happen. I'm not sure about that, about whether this is a view similar to the Ash'aris. Can you possibly have knowledge about spiritual things that aren't based on the Quran and Hadith? Can you possibly have knowledge based about things spiritual that aren't based on Quran and Hadith? I don't understand. Give me an example. Wa alaikum assalam, Abdul Samad M. Perez. Okay. Manfado, that's an excellent name. Manfado. Wa alaikum assalam. Is it permissible to work in a bank department that don't sell interest? It depends. What's the job TNC? What's the terms and conditions of the job? Because if it's a generic job like an engineer or a janitor or someone who's a technician or someone who just kind of sorts out software, things like that, possibly. But if it's directly involved in supporting the transactions that take place, no. Does the Hanafi madhab allow men to shave their eyebrows? Yeah, I mean, men can shave their eyebrows. Yeah, but it's considered to be like, if it kind of resembles, they say, if it resembles like effeminate people, like if you kind of look like a feminine, if you do it, then no, then it's not allowed. But if it's not, then there's scope. Okay, my question is, when one makes sujood, does one have to say Subhana Rabbil A'la, then make supplication? No, you can actually make supplication without saying that. Okay, all women think they are beautiful. Okay, mashallah. Okay, Sharif, niyat, Allah A'lam. Niyat. I don't understand the question. Was it in the back? The previous question. Oh, you're saying niya. Ah, okay. You think niya. So yeah, niya, we're on the same level, bro. Yeah, you see, you're in America, I'm in UK. We're on the same level, bro. I'm saying simulating in your mind, and you're saying niya. Think about it. Niya and simulation is very closely. A Hanafi scholar mentioned in a gathering that making dua in sujood is mustahab in fard salat, for the view of Sarakhsi and many other Hanafi scholars, and recommended people to do so. Making dua in sujood is mustahab in fard salat. I don't know. I mean, I've never come across Sarakhsi's opinion on that. I'll have to check it up. I mean, I've never come across. Do you mean between sajdas? Between sajdas, possibly. Yeah, between sajdas. There's an opinion that's mentioned from, dua after salat. I don't know, in salat. Hanafis generally mention that in fard you shouldn't do it, but in nawafil there's scope. So I don't know if you can find for me. I'll have to try and look if you can find the quote for me. Okay, students in the gathering began refuting and were heated about it. Yeah, I mean, I've never come across Sarakhsi's opinion on this. There is a masala regarding where after you finish your salat, before you start your sunnat, right? Can you say anything more than Allahumma anta salam minka salam tabarak ya jalal ikram? So many of the Hanafis say no, you should get up straight away. However, Imam Halwani, who's the teacher of Sarakhsi, he actually says no, you can do azkar and du'as because it's not like a gap which is considered to be a fasila between the two. It doesn't it's not ajnabi. Okay, next one. And what are the different dua in sujood that does one still say Subhana Rabbil A'la, make the different dua, or can one just say different dua such as Subhanaka Allahumma Rabbana wa bihamdika Allahumma? Yeah, you can say that. You can say that. The main thing is in sujood, you do the tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you can supplicate as well. Okay, what's the Hanafi ruling on working at a gas station that sells alcohol and other prohibited products? Is the stipulation that most of their profits have to be from halal to be allowed to work on? Yeah, that's what Mufti Taqi Usmani says, and that sounds like something, sounds reasonable as well. Especially in this kind of society where nearly anywhere a person kind of works in some sort of like a shop, there's always going to be some element of haram being sold there. So I would say that would be correct. Okay. Abu Sabir, not like create. Okay, a lot of Pakistan accent, that's the one. I heard that Jannah and Jahannam can speak. So when the narration in the Quran talks about Jahannam speaking, or the narrations talk about Jannah speaking, is that something which is metaphorical? Like I mentioned before, is it like something which is kalamul hal? Like, when you look at someone and they're tired and you say, you look tired, or your body is reeking of tiredness, your body is screaming tiredness. It's like a very kind of like metaphorical sort of way we say things. So is it that, or is it real? So we don't really know. These are kind of mutashabihat. These are things which are, best not to kind of delve into. So yeah, they possibly can be alive. There could be a creature that we can't understand. So not like a Jannah is not like a garden of the dunya, which is inanimate. Okay, this is down like saying there are qutubs who control the world, etc. Yeah, these are very kind of like they're non-central issues that we have amongst our scholars. So I wouldn't really kind of spend. Some people say, is Khidr alayhi salam alive, or is he dead, or is there one, or are there many? These aren't like kind of central kind of things. These are just like kind of, when you're drinking coffee or something and you just want to spend some time and you start discussing these things. Those are designed for that. Okay, has Jamrock, why was Uthman radiallahu anhu fearful of the afterlife when he had the glad tidings of Jannah as he was amongst the Ashara and Washara? So generally, when it comes to the Sahaba or even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where his feet used to swell, and Aisha radiallahu anha said to him that Allah has forgiven all your sins, so why do you spend so much of your night worshipping Him until your feet swell? So he said, should I not be a thankful servant? So it's like when you reach these levels, what begins to happen is you don't become content with your station. It's like you feel more humbled. And when someone from the outset looks at these people, they think that these people have reached. Think of it like a rich person. Sometimes I see like, a person who's very wealthy, millionaire or billionaire. I mean, I don't know any billionaires, but if any of you guys are billionaires and you want to know me, right, just comment after this finishes. Just comment. So anyway, so if there is let's say there's a millionaire. Why aren't millionaires happy with their wealth? Why do they want more for? Because it's like there's like this kind of unsatiated part of their hearts or their minds, which just wants more. And likewise, when you get closer to Allah, it's very similar. You just want to get closer and closer, and you're not satisfied until you reach Allah. So it's a very similar sort of feeling, you can say. So I would say Uthman radiallahu anhu, he reached such a high level that the dunya became something that was worthless to him, and it was all about that, is Allah happy with me? And this is a person reaches this level, subhanAllah, may Allah give us this level. This person reaches this level, after so much striving for Allah's sake. Okay, next, a priori. Is it allowed for a Hanafi to follow any opinion in the madhab as long as it is not a weak opinion, just to act on it person? Example, follow Shayban in Witr, not being wajib. See, this is a big discussion. We don't have much time now because it's going to be Maghrib soon. But Imam Ibn Abidin mentions two opinions about this. One of the opinions basically is that no, you're not allowed to do it amongst the Hanafis. Some have discussed this, like Qasim bin Qattubugha is quite strict on this, and he says basically if there's an opinion which is not the Rajih opinion, al-marjuh kal-ma'dum. So you can't take it. You have to take the opinion which has been kind of prioritized by the scholars, the official opinion, the mufta bihi. The other opinion, which some other Hanafis have taken, they say no. They say as long as there's no tashahi and there's no tatabu' rukhas, so you're not kind of doing it out of laziness or out of some other reason, you generally feel that this is a good, strong opinion, then there's scope for it. And this is only for a person who is a student scholar of Hanafi madhab, not for the layperson. The layperson would have to follow whatever the scholar tells him. So those are two opinions. That's in short, basically. Okay, Usman Irfan. Wa alaikum assalam, Usman. I haven't seen you for a long time. Hope you're well. I asked this question before, but you were in a rush and didn't explain the answer in detail. I was taught that things on which there is ikhtilaf in such a way that three Imams are on one side and Imam Hanifa is on another, there's always leeway for Hanafis to follow the other opinions. Not necessarily. This requires detailed discussion, this does. Just like the previous question answered. this is why we study something called ifta. So ifta is studied because you try to understand the technicalities behind following opinions of the other Hanafis. How do we follow them? When do we not follow them? So there is so like Imam Ibn Abidin mentions in Uqud Rasul Mufti, he says that some Hanafis have said that if the two Hanafis on one side, two students, and Abu Hanifa is on the other side, the Mujtahid Mufti has the power to take whichever one he wants. But some Hanafis say, no, you can't do that. You have to take Abu Hanifa's opinion. If you want to read more about this, there's a good book that's written by Al-Bakdash, Sheikh Bakdash. It's called Takween Al-Madhab Al-Hanafi, Takween Al-Madhab Al-Hanafi, and he goes through about 15 different positions of Hanafis regarding whose opinion do you follow. Yeah. Okay, so next. Ustad, Ustad, are there any books about how to pray Salah as a Musafir? Yes, but there's actually one. There's one that my teacher has written and someone's translated it into English. So I think it's called the Traveler's Prayer by Mufti Inam al-Haq. Mufti Inam al-Haq, the Traveler's Prayer. Yeah, try to look for that book. The Traveler's Prayer, or the Rulings of a Traveler, something like that. Mufti Inam al-Haq. Okay, Imam Abu Hanifa is on the other, then there is no. Okay, if someone is punished in the grave, does this mean that he necessarily goes to hell, and vice versa? If someone is rewarded in the grave, can he still end up in hell? Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, if a person is punished in grave, that doesn't mean that that's where he's going to go. So it could be that he's just getting, like, for example, like part of his punishment is being exacted or carried out in the grave. Possible. And it doesn't necessarily mean where he's going to end up. Okay, who's your favorite scholar from every madhab that you wish the Hanafi madhab had as their own? Oh, this is a difficult one. I would say Abu Bakr al-Baqillani, Malikis, Ibn Rushd, Al-Jadd, grandfather, Ibn Abdul Barr, these are the Malikis. The Shafi'is, I would say, Al-Imam Zarkashi. I like Imam Zarkashi. Al-Imam who else? Nawawi. Yeah, Nawawi, excellent. From the Hanbali madhab, Imam Ibn Aqil, Imam Ibn Qudama. Okay, everybody's gone forever. Do you have any tips to remember vocab words better? Yes, I've got a tip. What you have to do is basically remember the word in a sentence. It's easier. So let's say you come across a new word, for example, like jeed. Jeed means neck. Just say something like Ra'aytu al-iqt fi jeediha. I saw the necklace in her neck. Yeah, so this area is called the jeed. Obviously, you shouldn't be looking at people's necklaces in their necks, but that's the way to remember it. Valerie, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Discover the language of the Quran. Ustad, could you explain the balagha benefit of tibaq and muqabala? What's so significant in mentioning opposites from balagha point of view? Yeah. وَبِضِدِّهِ تَتَبَيُّنُ الْأَشْيَاء. So when we're speaking, like if you listen to song lyrics, you can listen to song lyrics, okay? If you read song lyrics and see how mentioning opposites, it gives a vivid image. Right? So tibaq is basically when you kind of bring opposites, like the Quran mentions it. يُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَيُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ. Yeah? He brings life from the dead, he brings dead from the life. So those opposites, it kind of defines for you an image. Yeah, it does what the cameras do in a movie. It gives you imagery, it gives you like vivid imagery. So the more, like in a film, the sharper the image you want, the better camera. You get a HD, and then you get a 4K, and then you get 8K, right? And then I don't think I don't know what's after that. But when it comes to something like language, you bring opposites, and there's various ways you can bring opposites, right? Strict opposites and then loose opposites are called the tibaq. Muqabala is basically when you bring like the same number of things, so you kind of like a scale. you balance out your statements. So if you say 3 things on this side, you say 3 things on this side, 4 things on this side. I hit the man, then helped the man, then killed the man, then buried the man. Yeah. So you're kind of like bringing. So see, what we have to remember is language has a big effect on the audience, right? The way we bring words, symmetry in language is very powerful. And we haven't tapped into that because we watch too many movies. When you watch movies, your faculty of thinking, it becomes stunted, shrinks. And that's why I've done these poetry courses. So inshallah, today I'm going to be putting up another one of the poetry courses, yeah? Watch that. And you'll see the kind of imagery that it creates. So when you read the Quran becomes very powerful. Are you going to record more tafsir studies? Yes. One hopefully is coming out this week. I'm editing it. Tafsir studies. Do you like those tafsir studies ones? Okay. Okay, who's asking? No. Yeah, because everyone's supposed to come on time. Okay, Sister Yamna, why did the Ottomans and Mughals have portraits of themselves painted? Was it simply disobedience or the room in fiqh for this? Some of those rulers like Sultan Abdul Hamid. Yeah, it's more like a kind of fiqhy sort of issue. Yeah, just like if you see they've got photos they take as well. So it's more of like a fiqhy kind of thing. Again, these are all to do with culture. When you understand the culture of something, everything makes sense. But when you look at it from like retrospective, or you're totally detached from that culture, things seem very strange. Like for example, I tell you, in Pakistan, you have those men who dress like women, and they walk around and they say, give me some money. Yeah, they say like that as well. They don't come to Malvis. They don't come to us. Yeah, but these kind of guys, yeah, I've seen them. It's normal over there. You'll be sitting down with your friends, your teacher even, and they'll come across and your teacher will put some money in his pocket, take some out and give it to them. Right? It's like, it's a normal kind of thing. But the thing is when you look at it from this country, you think, what the, in Pakistan they have like men dressed as women walking around and asking for money and, doing jokes and stuff. Yeah? It seems very strange. It seems like, but over there, it kind of like, it's just like a normal thing. It's like the guy that walks around with, oil, yeah, to give you a massage. Just, it's a normal thing over there. Okay, using pure black dye for men and women. Okay. If wife and husband have a disagreement on issues like should our kids be vaccinated, should the coach stand over there or not, issues of decoration, etc. Who has the last say in terms of... Okay, I'm going to finish now, guys, yeah? So this is the last question I'm answering. I'm finishing now. I have to go. Who has the last say in terms of fiqh? You see, again, these kind of issues. Why do we have to make fiqh the arbitrator in all of our issues in our day? Right? Like, for example, family issues between husband and wife, between parents and children. You have to come to some sort of like conclusion, compromise. Sometimes you got to give up your own rights. Sometimes that's how it works, families. If families worked on fiqh, the families will not function properly. Because families are supposed to be based upon love, based upon, mercy upon one another, like that. And, when you have things like the rules are like kind of make it too rigid. Right? So I would say you should come to some sort of conclusion on this. But generally, if it's like the father usually has the say. What is the ruling of buying a suit and wearing it for one function, then returning it? This kind of question. If the shop's okay with it, if the shop's okay with it, then it's allowed. But personally, I wouldn't see it as a morally good thing to do. Like I wouldn't really kind of be happy with that. I really think that tafsir poetry and tafsir videos, you like them, mashallah, jazakallah khair. In our present day, which school of grammar is predominant? Basra, Kufa, inshallah, do the Arabic numbers video. Yes, Basra's predominant. Sheikh, why are you picking on Pakistan? Because I've been there for 9 years, bhai. I mean, if I was in another country for 9 years, if I was in India, Bangladesh, some other country, I would have mentioned them. Okay, which books would you recommend that speak about Adat al-Arab ancient Arab customs? Yeah, so I'm actually supposed to be compiling something on that. There's a very good book called Tarikh al-Mufassal المفصل في تاريخ الجاهلية, something like that. 10 volumes by Dr. Jawad Ali. That's very good. Anyway, خلاص. I think I've answered all your questions. Curious got questions, there's loads left, so I'll have to do another day. Thank you very much, guys, for attending. MashaAllah, may Allah reward all of you guys. And I hope you guys have a wonderful time. And inshallah, I will see you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.